rivalry week is in the revived. We both are revived after seeing our teams win their rivalry game this past weekend.
We both got the proverbial monkeys off our back, so congratulations to us. Not many positives that come from this side of the podcast this year in terms of college football.
No. Your team is playing in a postseason game. We don't know which one. We don't know which one yet.
Hey, you know what a fun fact? This is the first Clemson team that started 1-3 to go 7-5. Did you watch the Clemson Carolina game? I know you didn't because Ohio State.
I did have it on. I had my eyes kind of moving back and forth between the two. The second TV was Miami and Pitt because I thought that would be a more impactful game.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Just to let you know that we watch every Ohio State game now at this house because of you. And my kids were infatuated with the snow at your game to the point
What did they think of Brutus?
They absolutely love Brutus. They love Brutus. They did not see what he did drawing in the snow. I have to show them that video. But my son was like, Daddy, why didn't you ever play in the snow? I was like, because it didn't snow down here. He goes, well, why don't you just go play in the snow? I was like, it's not that easy. Because I was like, I always wanted to play a game of football in the snow. It's like, well, why don't you just do it? You know, that would have been.
Why didn't you just import snow into South Carolina?
I should have. Well, people do import snow to South Carolina, but that's just a nickname for what it is, and they end up going to jail for a long time.
That is true. All right. Before we talk about all the games, we had a lot of coaching news here in the last 48 hours. As of 9 p.m. on Monday night, we have Lane Kiffin to LSU. Ole Miss is retaining Pete Golding as their head coach. Jon Sumrall to Florida. Alice Golish to Auburn. Ryan Silverfield to Arkansas. Bob Chesney to UCLA. Michigan State fired Jonathan Smith and then hired Pat Fitzgerald.
Great hire.
Tavita Pritchard is hired at Stanford. Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. Kentucky fired Mark Stoops. Will Stein was hired, and Penn State still doesn't have a coach.
That's insane. And on top of that, the biggest news of the day is that Crumble Cookie cares more about college football than you do. And they're willing to put their money where their mouth is.
Kalani Sitake may, as of 9 p.m., he is not the head coach at Penn State. He's still the head coach at BYU as of right now.
Which, is that not like the most out of left field person to get the Penn State job anyway?
Like, I think Kalani Sitake is a very good football coach. He's won 10 games multiple times. He's got a true freshman quarterback in the Big 12 championship game. He had to deal with Jake Retzlaff getting suspended, leaving. Won 10 games last year, was almost in the Big 12 championship, had them in contention for the playoff 2 straight years. Kalani Sitake is a really good football coach. But there's a question for me about fit. When you talk about James Franklin, when he was hired, was a Pennsylvania guy. Didn't go to Penn State, but was from Pennsylvania, understood the culture, understood the legacy of Penn State. We thought Bob Chesney, except he went to UCLA. We thought Bob Chesney would be a great fit. Guy from Pennsylvania, same thing.
I want to talk
G5
about that
coach. G5 coach, go back to Pennsylvania, understand the culture, understand the history, understand what Penn State's all about. Kalani Sitake has never coached east of the Mississippi.
Let me tell you.
Never coached east of the Mississippi. And to me, that means there is I don't want to say a learning curve because he knows how to coach football, but there's a different culture of football at Penn State than there is at BYU.
Because let me explain something to you, culturally wise, in terms of the fans, in terms of the demographic. There's not many Kalani Fafita Sitakes walking around Pennsylvania, especially in the middle of the state. There's a lot of Diefenthalers. There's a lot of Heimlers. There's a lot of Schmitz. There's a lot of very German people that do not look or have the same culture that Sitake is from. So when you think of the Polynesian culture, that's where he's been his entire life, is on that West Coast, where in Oregon, in California, in Utah. Utah is a massive, massive Polynesian demographic. It's a lot easier to recruit when you come from the same culture.
Yes.
When he goes out to Penn State, I think he'll have a very difficult time doing that. I really do. And you think about the majority of his kids. The majority of the kids come right out of his backyard because if you're not getting the Polynesian kid to come to BYU, you're right there in California. So you're getting whoever you want out there in California, which is a hotbed of talent. Pennsylvania has big time talent, but not even close to the amount that California has. So even if you're getting the scraps from Oregon, Utah, and USC, you're still getting some big time players.
One of the things for BYU is the Church of the Latter-day Saints. That BYU, obviously, foundation, Brigham Young University. One interesting thing I did find out is that Penn State's wrestling coach, which is a very big sport for Penn State, wrestling might be the second biggest sport for Penn State, is also part of the Church of the Latter-day Saints. He's Mormon, which I just thought was an interesting tidbit where their wrestling coach, who has created a dynasty there, is from the same background. But let's talk about the coaches who have been hired. Out of all of those guys who have been hired, which one sticks out to you the most?
Well, I'm not going to put Lane Kiffin and Pete Golding in this conversation. The one that sticks out the most to me, the craziest one that I had no idea that was even an option, was Bob Chesney to UCLA. UCLA, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize your game. I didn't think you'd come out and take Bob Chesney right out from under Penn State's noses. Phenomenal hire, in my opinion. But what I really want to talk about is Jon Sumrall and Alex Golesh. So, and I'm putting those two together because I think they're very similar. And I also think they're getting very similar reactions from their fan bases. So Auburn and Florida, it seems like it's a majority negative reaction to Jon Sumrall's hiring to Florida and Alex Golesh's hiring at Auburn. And Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, both those guys are phenomenal coaches who had immense success in the G5 and were both able to beat Power 4 teams while at their respective G5 programs. Why would you not want someone with that much success? Yes, I can get it from Florida where you're like, well, we had a guy from the G5 who had success who struggled here. Yes, I get it. Jon Sumrall is a better coach than Billy Napier. Billy Napier was fired from Clemson as an offensive coordinator. Jon Sumrall has not been fired from a job from a coordinator job. Jon Sumrall left. I believe he was at Kentucky before he went to Tulane. Am I right, or am I mixing that up?
Jon Sumrall played at Kentucky. I know he was
played at Kentucky.
I know he was a graduate assistant there at one point.
So
I'm going to pull up Sumrall's right now. He was at San Diego, Tulane, Troy, Ole Miss, Kentucky, and then he coached at Troy, Tulane, and now Florida.
Okay, Kentucky is who I was thinking of. So he leaves these jobs. He goes to Tulane and makes Tulane a G5 powerhouse. Yes, they haven't made the college football playoff yet. And I mean, there's only been 2 years. But if you go back 3 years when Tulane beat USC in the Cotton Bowl, that team would have been in the college football playoff. That was a legitimate Tulane team. So this guy can coach his tail off. He can recruit, and he can do a lot with limited resources.
That was Willie Fritz, by the way.
Oh, you're right. God, I don't know ball. That time frame of Tulane football really just runs in. That's the same era to me. But you think about it too. He kept it going. There wasn't a big drop off when he was hired on. Thank you for the correction, though. Alex Golesh, same thing, but even better hire with Alex Golesh because he goes to USF from Tennessee, and USF was a dumpster fire. He comes in there, and again, now they're in the college football playoff conversation. They're beating a Florida. They're competing. Well, they didn't compete with Miami, but they're able to compete with these big time programs. And I don't understand why these SEC teams are looking at this way. Jon Sumrall, Alex Golesh. Did you really want Lane Kiffin that badly for him to coach with you for 5 years and leave and go somewhere else? Because LSU, I hate to tell you, he's going to do that to y'all too. He's done it to everybody he's done to. So Florida and Auburn wanted Lane Kiffin that badly. I don't get that. I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't really know the intrigue. We talked about Lane Kiffin last week, and we talked about the whole whataboutism, and obviously, I feel bad for Marty Smith for sitting in
he deserves
Oxford. Marty Smith deserves a lot from ESPN because a couple of those shots, he looked exhausted.
I bet he was, and he's there by himself. Yeah, Marty Smith's the
goat. He's just stuck in Oxford, Mississippi, waiting in the facility, getting told that Lane Kiffin's going to tell him by like 7:30, and it's like 9:00, and he's being left on red by Lane Kiffin. A couple of them that interest me. So Arkansas hiring Ryan Silverfield. I saw this from a while ago. I don't know if this really is going to move the needle. I think Ryan Silverfield has done well at Memphis. I would give this overall like a C or C minus.
Well, all right. Comparatively to Sam Pittman.
I think Pittman at least brought some excitement to the program. You bring up a Georgia offensive lineman coach. Silverfield, it made sense. I put him on my list earlier this year. Proximity wise, they beat him. I'm just not sure if it's going to move the needle enough or if Arkansas is just going to continue being the doormat of the SEC with this.
Yeah. Do you think that Pat Fitzgerald was hired at Michigan State because Tavita Pritchard was hired at Stanford? Because it seemed like Tavita Pritchard was hired at Stanford and then Michigan State fires Jonathan Smith as if they're like, all right, we got our guy.
Jonathan Smith was there had been some rumblings I saw the last month or so just because of how bad it had been going.
Right,
I'm usually a 3-year guy. Like, you give the coach 3 years, but
yeah.
I mean, he got worse from year 1 to year 2.
Right.
And that was not a good situation. Tavita Pritchard, though, I mean, he was the backup to Andrew Luck, so it's not a surprise of who he brought in.
Quarterback coach for the Commanders. Jaden Daniels did pretty good last year.
Yeah. I don't think it's a surprise of who they brought in. And I mean, hindsight, I did not even think Tavita Pritchard was an option just because I'm not in as much of the NFL circle. I don't pay as much attention to assistant coaches in the NFL and who's where and who's doing what, and who's the alma mater for whatever. Because you don't see too many guys come from the NFL down to college too often. It happens, but not super often, become the head coach. But to me, this was you're going to get the job. You're going to get a little bit of runway here. And Andrew Luck, I'm going to help you out. And I'm going to help get you the resources you need because my name carries a lot of weight.
Yeah. I think the biggest home run might have been Oklahoma State, getting Eric Morris to stay local.
Yes. To me, that if I was to give that a grade, I think to me that would possibly be the second best grade based off of fit.
I mean, you want to talk about like transitioning eras from the Mike Gundy era? They could not have done a better job with this hire. And I would have loved to see who else reached out to Eric Morris because if other schools didn't, if Arkansas didn't, if other schools out west did not, man, y'all are feeling stupid right now. I mean, phenomenal. And you know what? They're probably going to get Drew Mestemaker. They're probably going to get some of those big-time offensive weapons come over from North Texas.
It feels like Mestemaker is going to end up transferring with him to Oklahoma State. The intriguing thing is we may have potentially 2 group of 5 teams make the playoff. We'll talk about this a little bit later. But all 3 of the candidates will have a coach with 1 foot out the door, but are all being told that they can finish their season, which I respect. I respect that. See, that's a different thing than Lane Kiffin, who is sitting here holding a program hostage.
So, yes, okay, that's what I wanted to get at. Everybody that's sitting there saying that Ole Miss is the bad guy for not letting him coach the rest of the season, none of these people were tweeting subliminal messages from October on. None of these people, held the school hostage as long as they did, held Marty Smith, our king, hostage, and he was just toying around the entire time. And the more stuff comes out, the more bad blood and bad relationships that Lane Kiffin had with the Ole Miss entire media group and front office group. I mean, he was awful apparently with everyone there. So that's the difference. That's the difference.
Well, and then also you have the whole, if you're not on this plane, you don't have a spot on my coaching staff at LSU.
Yeah. Why would you want to be a part of that?
So why would Ole Miss want him to stay? Because I think there's a little bit of a different mentality. If you're at North Texas, if you're at USF, if you're at JMU, like this is your chance to make a mark in college football history because you don't know when the next shot you're going to get is. And ultimately, it's hard for some of these guys to turn down life-changing money. Yes, I know they make hundreds of $1,000s or $1 million. But then all of a sudden, when you go to making $5, $6, $7 million a year,
6, 7.
Yeah. Well, the rumor is that Bob Chesney was offered like $3 million to be the JMU coach, making one of the highest paid group of 5 coaches. But UCLA basically came in and doubled that. And
which is insane.
it's hard for JMU to self-reflect and go, well, why won't you get, well, if you're being offered twice the amount of money to go do the same job, but maybe in a different location, it's also the level of college football. The chances for JMU to actually win a championship are slim. Now, granted, UCLA, they're not great either, but you can view that and continue building. They have more resources.
That honestly tells me, too, that JMU is really serious about their football program and probably I would not doubt within the next 10 years end up as a Power 4 program.
I think JMU is going to be a very intriguing program for an up-and-coming coordinator to take that role. I mean, look at the last two coaches. You went to UCLA, you went to Indiana. You can go there and know that you have a chance to win and make the playoff.
And honestly, the culture of the front office is kind of embracing that. Look what we did with our last two guys. That's kind of been their pitch. Our coaches come here and then they get better jobs, and you can do that too. And it's like, man, that's kind of neat that they're embracing that kind of G5, because the rest of the G5 is like, this sucks. And JMU's like, come on, bring your best. We can help you get to the next level, and we're going to invest in you, because this JMU team, both times they had to empty the cupboard, but then they're not afraid to go out and go pick up guys out of the portal. So
this is going to be a very, very good group of five program for somebody to come take over, and a spot where you can immediately come in and win, because if you can get guys to stay, especially with how the portal works now, that guys can't actually enter the portal until January. If you get somebody hired in the next 2 weeks, you got a shot to keep them on campus. Right. You have a shot to keep them. Even if they announce their intentions, they can't enter that portal until January 2nd. So you have a shot to keep them.
Also, like, if you go back to the Pete Golding hire for Ole Miss, I don't hate that hire. Obviously, it's not as exciting as a Lane Kiffin, as polarizing. I don't think Pete Golding is terrible. I think he could do a good job. But if you look at this list, I think the worst hires would be between him and Tavita Pritchard at Stanford. Because what has Tavita Pritchard done on the college level? What has he done to prove himself and cut his teeth into coaching? Yeah. I just don't know enough about Tavita Pritchard to sit here and say and bang the table for him and say he's great. But if you talk about who hit the home runs, I think it's Florida. I think it's Auburn. I think it's Oklahoma State. I mean, I think Oklahoma State is the biggest one. Go ahead. Sorry.
I am kind of mellow on Pat Fitzgerald getting hired at Michigan State.
And you were the both, and like you loved him going to Stanford.
I think it's a fit thing for me, and I also think it's expectations. At Stanford, no offense, but they're not looking to win a national championship every year right now. They had a run under Harbaugh and David Shaw. I don't think they go in there with the expectation of being an ACC contender every year. I think right now it's, how do we get to a bowl game?
Yeah.
I think the problem for Michigan State is they have also tasted it, and it's a little bit more of a competitive conference. And look who's in your backyard with Michigan and Ohio State and I guess Penn State. But then you also have USC and Oregon and Washington in your conference, and even Illinois is playing well. You have Iowa. I do not think Pat Fitzgerald is going to be able to win more than average 7 wins a year, which at Northwestern is fine, but at Michigan State, it's not going to be enough.
I disagree with you a little bit, but I want to also say this too. The reason Michigan State's expectations are higher is they have been there before. I mean, 10 years ago, they were in the playoff. My senior year, they were playing Alabama. I mean, they got boat raced by Alabama, but they played Alabama in the playoff when we played Oklahoma and ended up losing to Alabama that year. But they're not that far removed from being a playoff team. I mean, the Izzo years, not Izzo years, sorry, that's basketball. What's his last name?
D'Antonio,
thank you. Those years were really good to Michigan State. And Sparty was a
Mel Tucker and won 10 games.
Right. Yeah. Just couldn't stay off the cell phone apparently. So too soon. Michigan State is a proud football program because they've played in many Rose Bowls. I mean, they've been competitive and been a tough team to beat, and lately they just haven't been that. And I think they thought that Jonathan Smith was going to be able to come over there and fix it quickly. I think the way that Mel Tucker had to leave did a lot of damage to them, optically. And then the timing of it was also awful. We're just now getting into a new era of football, and then there goes your head coach. and you had just lost your long-term head coach in D'Antonio. So you made two massive transitions at the same time. I don't think Jonathan Smith was ever going to have a good shot to do it in 2 years. I don't. Now, you think you get the 5-star wide receiver, Nick Marsh, and the 5-star quarterback, Aiden Childs, to come over there, and you think it's going to fix all the problems quickly, but I don't think – I think they were fighting a very, very massive, steep uphill battle at that point already. Now, was he making progress? Michigan State was pretty competitive in some games this year. I mean, they weren't an easy out by any means, and who do they play? They played. If I look at their schedule, I'm gonna pull it up. Great podcasting right here.
I know they played Michigan for sure. I mean, they actually beat Maryland this past weekend, which is kind of funny. Where they were 3-8. And then the final game, they beat Michigan. 3-point loss to Iowa, 18-point loss to Penn State, 3-point loss in overtime to Minnesota, 11-point loss to Michigan. 25-point loss to Indiana, 25-point loss
score.
to UCLA, 11-point loss to Nebraska, 14-point loss to USC. But that 14 points
was not 14. Yeah, it was
It was kind of a backdoor cover.
Yeah, plus the UCLA game, Aiden Childs didn't play. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I don't know. They're not that far away. You go back to 2024. I mean, they barely beat Florida Atlantic. They lost to Boston College, who they ended up beating this year in overtime. So that's progress. They somehow beat Iowa last year. I don't get Iowa. Iowa confused me last year. Lost to Michigan, which Michigan was a horrible team last year. Don't know how they did that. They blew it at the end. I remember that. So yeah, I think when they're losing games this time, at least some of them weren't as bad.
I think this was they hired Jonathan Smith because he also wanted out of Oregon State because moving conferences and wasn't really sure what was happening. And then also Jonathan Smith took a shot and it just didn't work, honestly. Like it just wasn't a fit. And I think everybody kind of realized, hey, this isn't where we need to be. We need to make changes. And obviously they hired Pat Fitzgerald within a day. So there was definitely some conversations beforehand saying, would you be interested? And he said yes. All right, let's jump into this past weekend because we had a bunch of rivalry game action. We have to talk about what happened. Let's start with Texas A&M and Texas. What was your takeaway from this game?
Wow, what was my takeaway? Texas A&M, very vulnerable. And Texas A&M just kept missing. So I guess if I wanted to summarize that game, it's this: football is a game of inches. How many times did Texas A&M get it to 3rd and 1 where they just missed the first down marker? And it ended up costing them, or they wouldn't be able to convert, or they'd make a mistake. Football is a game of inches. And when the inches came, Texas was somehow able to capitalize. And they haven't been able to really do that all year. Texas has gained some momentum the last couple of weeks. I don't think Texas looked that good. I think Texas A&M looked more bad than Texas looked good. Does that make sense? Like A&M.
I mean, Arch Manny's only 14 of 29, so it's not like Arch Manny sat here and was, dicing them up left and right. 14 of 29. Quintravian Wisner had himself a day, 19 carries, 155 yards.
And that's what I wanted to talk about
was a carry.
Texas A&M's rush defense was horrendous. And if you want to point anywhere in the game that cost them the game, it's the rush defense. Yeah, Quintravian Wisner had himself a day.
Well, we talked about the explosive plays, and I thought it would be the explosive plays. But here, Texas A&M, they had 2 interceptions, and they had 3 drives that went 3 and out. I think it was 3. The first quarter, they had three plays, 5 yards. Third quarter, they started 3 plays, 2 yards, and 3 plays, 8 yards. So you're heading into the end of the third quarter, and you have barely had the ball. You do have 6 points on the board because also, I believe, did they miss the extra point?
No,
I'm looking at the wrong thing. Oh no, they were up. My bad. They were up 10-6. My bad. They were up 10-6 going into the end of the third quarter before Texas scored. And it just there was missed opportunities there. You miss a field goal early in the game. You throw 2 interceptions. One of them's in the end of the game. I kind of give that one a little bit of a pass because when you're desperation, that's just stuff going to happen. But they really didn't connect on the big plays enough. They tried to run the ball down Texas's throat, and Reuben Owens was 13 carries for 48 yards. EJ Smith, 4 carries, 27 yards. Wasn't bad. Marcel Reed was the best rusher at 12 carries for 71 yards. But Texas was able to stifle and frustrate Texas A&M on Friday. I was expecting KC Concepcion and Mario Craver to have big days. I expected them to go off. The Texas secondary had been iffy throughout the past couple of weeks, and I thought that Marcel Reed would be able to expose that. And instead, Concepcion finished with 57 yards and Craver with 44.
Did every player on Texas A&M did every player on Texas A&M have an ankle injury in that game at some point?
It felt like guys were dropping.
I mean, yeah, and if you want to point to it, Marcel Reed probably had one of his best completion percentage games, but his worst passing yard game.
Yeah, only 180 yards.
So the key to the game is complete 50% of your passes, no more. No more than 50% of your passes. It was almost a 66%. We got to change that. Yeah.
They were able to keep the receivers in front of them and not let them get loose, which is what felt like the biggest thing here. And Texas, credit to them, they did enough. They did enough to win the game. Arch Manning wasn't perfect, but he didn't make any crucial mistakes. Quintravion Wisener carried the ball, carried the load. Like I said, 155 yards. Arch Manning added another 50 himself. This Texas team, I mean, you want to talk about up and downs. You beat Texas A&M, but you're like in overtime with Mississippi State and Kentucky. You lose to Florida, but you beat Oklahoma. You get whooped by Georgia. You want to talk about a roller coaster of a team? Texas is the roller coaster of a team.
And that's like everybody that's trying to bang the drum to get them into the college football playoff. One of the biggest statistics or biggest identifiers for me when looking at a playoff team is are you consistent? All the other teams that are kind of vying for that spot have been fairly consistent throughout the year. Texas has been the exact opposite of that. You never know what you're going to get. You absolutely never know what you're going to get. So, I mean, I think Texas has zero shot in getting into the college football playoff. Zero.
Texas would need to be sitting at 11.
Texas would need BYU, Duke.
Actually, I think BYU winning would hurt them.
Yes, you're right. So Texas would need Texas Tech, Georgia,
and Duke.
Actually,
I don't think that one matters. I don't think Virginia and Duke matter because.
Well, it could. Oh, no, because then, yeah, a G5.
Virginia's not going to jump them.
Yeah, Virginia's getting it. Yeah, you're right.
They would need to be ahead of Miami, and then they would need Georgia to win and Texas Tech to win.
Yeah, and I still think it's a conversation at that point.
You still have a weird conversation of who gets in and who's not in.
And speaking of that, Jake, let's walk it back just a little bit. Somebody's going to get left out.
Somebody's going to get left out.
And I think the teams that are going to be left out is this group. It's either going to be BYU, Notre Dame, Miami, or Alabama. I think that's the group of 4 teams that you have that are right there. And one or two of those teams are going to be left out. If Alabama loses to Georgia, I think Alabama might be out. I think
Alabama might be out, especially if BYU wins. I think that will bump Alabama out.
I think if BYU wins and Texas Tech is sitting there, I think would that be Texas Tech's third loss or second loss?
Second loss.
Second. I like how you did that. Second loss.
Texas Tech is going to be sitting probably at 4 or 5 tomorrow night or tonight if you're listening to this on Tuesday. Texas Tech's probably going to be sitting at 4 or 5. They were ahead of they were ahead of Oregon. We'll see if the committee puts Oregon ahead. The AP and coaches did. Doesn't mean the committee will. But if they keep Oregon ahead or behind them, they'll be sitting at 4. And all of a sudden, a loss, they're not going to drop out of the top 10. They're not going to drop 6 spots to the team that they have as 11th right now.
Yeah, I think Alabama has to win to get in. If they don't make it 2 years in a row, that place might implode. I think surprisingly, Notre Dame is fairly safe, because I think Miami's losses are going to keep them out. Yes, they beat Notre Dame, but the fact that they lost to SMU and Louisville, where Notre Dame lost to Texas A&M and Miami, 2 playoff teams essentially, I think that's what's going to sway the committee. But then you look at it, what do Miami's victories look like? What do Notre Dame's victories look like? And Miami literally beat Notre Dame. So
Notre Dame's best win right now is USC, and all of their other ones just somehow continue to lose.
Yeah, so that's going to be the biggest one to highlight is Notre Dame and Miami. BYU and Alabama kind of control their own destiny. If BYU loses, maybe they're out.
BYU is probably out with the loss, as much as I don't like 11-1 Team B sitting on the outside looking in. But there's too many 10-2 teams in the SEC, Big Ten, and
let's call a spade a spade. Let's call a spade a spade. If you're looking at the BYU logo, and you're looking at the Notre Dame logo, and you're looking at the Miami logo, which ones you're going to put in there? And you can argue. I don't agree with this at all. So don't sit here and say that I'm saying this is how it should be. That is what's going to happen. If it's down to those 3 teams, BYU, Notre Dame, and Miami, they're going to pick Notre Dame because that's the biggest logo. And then they would pick Miami because that's the second biggest logo. And then they would pick the Crumble Cookie Cougars.
I mean, full transparency, we haven't put our top 25 out yet. I had BYU at 10. I have them ahead of Alabama. So I think BYU is good.
I also have them ahead of Alabama.
I think BYU is good. I don't know where they'll fall. They can impress us a lot this weekend, though. We'll talk about that game here in a minute, though. Let's jump over to Ohio State, Michigan. Ohio State gets the monkey off their back. Ryan Day gets the win. This game was almost a little poetic. It was similar to the 2021 game, in my opinion. In Ann Arbor, it's snowing. Michigan just runs the ball down Ohio State's throat. Hassan Haskins has 5 touchdowns in 2021. Ohio State has an early interception. Julian saying, Michigan drives the ball down the field, kicks a field goal to start the game. Julian saying on the second play of the game throws an interception. I talked to Will about this beforehand. First play, they throw a deep shot to Carnell Tate. That was very obvious they were going to try something the way Ryan Day was saying, we're going to start fast. Incomplete. Second play of Jeremiah Smith. You could have told everybody in the building it was going to happen because they all knew it was happening. That, hey, if we're going to start fast, we're not just going to suddenly run the ball in the second play. Intercepted, terrible play, a call, terrible execution. It was very obvious what they were doing, and Michigan jumped the route. Kicks the second field goal. To me, that was important. If you hold them to a field goal, it's all of a sudden 6-0. Ohio State drives the ball down the field, kicks a field goal. Bo Jackson does a lot of work there. They get stuffed inside the 5-yard line. Michigan's third drive, hindsight, was one of the most important things. Ohio State draws a holding call on 2nd and 5, and they Bryce Underwood tries to run it. So they can either make it 2nd and 15 or 3rd and 5. And Ohio State says, we're going to decline that because I don't think you're going to get 5 yards. And sure enough, they did hold them. And to me, that everybody that I looked at said that was probably one of the most disrespectful things, saying, we don't trust you to actually get 5 yards on one play, that we're just going to decline this, and we're confident we're going to be able to stop you.
Isn't that just a great feeling when you can sun somebody like that?
Normally, you'd want 2nd and 15 because then an incompletion or a run, like you're possibly only getting 2 or 3 yards if you run the ball, maybe 5 or 6 at best. But still, then it's 3rd and 9 instead of 3rd and 5. Ohio State declines the penalty, and then they stop them. And then it felt like the dogs were unleashed.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Smith catches, on 4th and 5, they run,
beautiful.
They run on a route, and Jeremiah Smith puts the DB on skates. Might have been a fumble, might not have been a fumble. If it looks like a touchdown, feels like a touchdown, it's a touchdown to me.
It was a touchdown. Let's. I mean, and honestly, I think the part that caused them not to overturn it was the fact that yes, he bobbles it, but then he reestablishes possession, and his foot may have been in bounds. So not only are you trying to overturn the bobble, but then you'd have to overturn that his foot was out of bounds by the time he regained possession. There's not enough that you can do with that.
So the other thing is, maybe I need a clerical information on this, because he's not a receiver at that point. He's not a receiver, so he doesn't have to doesn't have to fully establish possession and get a foot in bounds. As soon as he establishes possession, it's a touchdown. You see guys all the time where they don't have to land their foot in the end zone. As a runner, you can run through the corner completely, not put your foot in the end zone, and it's a touchdown as long as the ball crosses the goal line in possession. Yeah, it's not like you have to complete the process to the catch at that point. As long as you have possession, it's a touchdown.
Right.
But second half happens. Ohio State hits Carnell Tate down the middle of the field. Julian Sane has the game of his life. And Ohio State just in the end of the third quarter runs a 20-play, 12-minute drive.
I wanted to highlight this. So on 3 of Ohio State's 4 scoring drives, 11 plays, 5 minutes time possession, field goal. 10 plays, 5 minutes, 49 seconds time possession, touchdown. 11 plays, 5 minutes and 8 seconds, touchdown. Field goal or touchdown in 2 plays, that's an anomaly. 20 plays, 11 minutes, 56 seconds, field goal. When Ohio State was going, they could do whatever the hell they wanted to. I mean, Jake, just those drives right there. 5 minutes, 6 minutes, now we're at 11. Another 5 minutes, 16 minutes, plus 1 minute, 17 minutes, plus 12 minutes. Just the scoring drives alone was 28 minutes of possession. That doesn't include the drives where you didn't score. That 28 minutes, that's half the game.
Yeah, half the game, and there were other possessions in there where they didn't score. This game really felt like Ohio State established early that they were going to do what they wanted. And they didn't really come out with the intention of, we're going to embarrass you. We're not, Ryan Day probably could have scored more points if he wanted to, but his whole thing was, there's more season we played. We don't need to do anything stupid. This is already chippy enough as it is. I mean, you got Michigan players headbutting referees. Targeting. And I think at the end of the game, there were a lot of people that thought Ohio State was going to go try and plant a flag. Michigan, guards the M. And there's going to be an iconic photo of Michigan players standing on their M, and Ohio State players are celebrating, with their fans instead of causing chaos.
I want to add this too. I think Michigan abandoned the run way too quickly. In the first 2 drives, Michigan runs 36 yards, throw for 10, run for 2, rush for 0, pass for nothing, field goal. Next drive, rush for 7, rush for 21, rush for 2, rush for 2, pass for 0, field goal.
Now, Jordan Marshall did get hurt in this game.
That played a big role. But
that plays a big role for sure. You have to bring in your third string running back because Justice Haynes is out. Jordan Marshall is out. You're bringing in Bryson Cudsdale, who was a former walk-on, which, of course, I, watching this game, thought Bryce Underwood looked overwhelmed.
He looked very overwhelmed. He was playing with his hair on fire, and not in a positive way the entire game. The game was going very, very fast for him, even with it being a home game. Ohio State's defense, hats off to them. And you want to have the statistical proof that he was playing under duress the entire game. How about 63 yards passing? How about 163 yards of total offense? How about only 100 yards rushing, which I'm sick. Jake, if you really wanted to dominate them, make them little brother, you should not have let them run for 100 yards. Shame on you.
The best part is they had 108 in the first half. They had 108 yards rushing in the first half, and they had -8 in the second half. But Underwood, there were so many times where it was 3rd down and 7, 3rd down and 6. And instead of going through his progressions, it was a one read, and if the dude isn't there in the first 2 milliseconds, he's checking down to the running back. And he forced the running back to drop a couple passes because he's throwing lasers from 6 yards away at his hip instead of, hitting the guy in the chest who is open because he's basically running out in the flat, and the running backs are dropping it. The running backs had numerous drops. Not that they were going to get the first down, but maybe it's 4th down in consideration rather than 3rd or 4th and 7, where you're not going to go for it. If it's 4th and 2, 4th and 1, maybe you do think about it. But no, the game looked like it was going way too fast for him. He still doesn't have touch on his throws. He can throw a deep ball. They didn't try it, but we've seen it this year. He can throw with some speed. He's obviously got the talent, but the mental awareness is not quite there yet for Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, and I think if Ryan Day was going to get the monkey off of his back, this was the perfect way to do it. He out physical Michigan, they out defense Michigan, they out everything Michigan, and they did it at their home field. And then to make matters the best, and Jake, I think this is what was the most exciting part for you, is Ryan Day went out there and told Sharon Moore essentially how they needed to protect their field, and said, "This is how you conduct yourself at your football field, little buddy."
That was such a little brother moment of him telling, "Get your players off this field so that we don't have any issues." You walked into his house and you told him how he was going to do it. And you see more. He doesn't even really say anything. He's just like, okay. And then Day just continues on his way. So, yeah, he tells him there's not going to be any ag planning. We got to get these guys off the field so we don't have any issues. So it was just towards the end of this game, it looked like Michigan was wanting to start a fight more than actually try to win the game. That's just how it felt to me. Because even when it was still 2 scores, it seemed like there was still just a lot of pushing and shoving. And obviously, Ohio State won. All right, a couple other things I want to talk about here. Is Arizona the least talked about 9-3 team of the season by far? Do people even know Arizona's 9-3?
No, I don't think they do. And I don't think they know that they play some of the best defense in the freaking country and that they're phenomenal. And that they just went out there and sunned Arizona State. Stunned them. I mean, and Arizona State was supposed to be a dark horse playoff contender again. And they got
Sam Levitt got hurt, but that didn't help.
That played a role. But, man, I don't think Sam Levitt would have been able to do anything against this defense. They're playing phenomenal.
Against Houston, they lost by 3. Against BYU, they lost by 6. Iowa State, they got whooped. But I mean, you're talking about 9 points from being 11-1 and just being in the conversation for the playoff.
Yeah. So you want to talk about the most surprising team? I know I'm getting a lot of praise right now from my Virginia takes, so thank you, Wahoo Nation. But I don't think anybody in the country saw Arizona doing what they're doing right now.
No.
Outside of the program.
No, and especially because they were sitting here at 4-3 in the middle of October and then went on a run, whooped up on Colorado, beat Kansas, beat Cincinnati, beat Baylor, beat Arizona State. Not the greatest teams in the world, but they are those teams can hold their own. Arizona State, good team. Cincinnati, good team. Kansas, good team. Baylor, good team. Colorado is just something. They're not all world beaters, but I mean, those are quality wins for your program. Something that you guys can build upon heading into next year, especially Brent Brennan. I was not a big fan of the hire when they did it, but he has proven me wrong.
Yeah, absolutely he has. And like the amount, the players love him. The players love him, and that makes a big difference. And honestly, like Jed Fish leaves that program, and you don't know what to expect. And you thought with Noah Fafita and Ted McMillan last year that they're going to be phenomenal, and they struggled, immensely. Noah Fafita stays, Ted McMillan goes. So naturally, like, oh, this team is going to take a huge step back. No, they just completely changed their identity. They're no longer a high-scoring offense that's just going to drop 5,000 points on you every single weekend. They're a great defense that can do enough offensively. And Noah Fafita has looked great. He's looked great at times. And now, again, you talk about Arizona State dealing with injuries. Blake Sims did a bad job of taking care of the football. And I think that cost them. It ended up costing them. I mean, especially the fumble. I think it was late in the third and maybe early in the fourth when they were driving to get back into a one-score game. But hats off to Arizona. Bear Down country is just Very impressive. I'm very impressed with what they do this year, for what it's worth.
Do you know Fafita still has a year of eligibility?
I did not know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, he's technically a redshirt junior. And if you are curious, he needs, let me see how many yards he needs. He only needs about 1,200 yards to set the all-time record at Arizona for passing. So if he comes back and he starts, 4 games, he'll probably set the record. Seeing as he has almost 9,000, well, and if he'll play in a bowl game, throw for like 200. He'll need like 900 yards or less by the time next year happens. Group of 5 action this weekend wasn't a ton of things, kind of went as expected. Tulane and North Texas took care of business. They'll play in the American Championship. Navy was in contention, needed one of them to lose, and both of them continued to win. JMU continues to dominate basically everybody in their path. Granted, everybody in their path has like 4 wins, but they're playing the schedule that's in front of them. And San Diego State is officially out, but all of a sudden a door for UNLV may open in a weird situation.
How was Boise State in the Mountain West Championship game?
That is the biggest confusion because there was 4 teams tied and they had to go to all these metrics to figure out who it was. And I actually don't still understand how they came up with Boise State versus UNLV because New Mexico State and somebody else New Mexico and somebody else who I'm forgetting about. New Mexico and I forget who the other team is that's tied in that conference. Might be San Diego State, actually. I think it's New Mexico and San Diego State are both tied, and it's Boise State versus UNLV. UNLV has 10 wins, though. In a weird situation, hypothetically, if Duke wins and actually JMU loses, do you take Duke at 8-5 or UNLV at 11-2?
I think we're overthinking this because I don't think Virginia loses. I think Virginia's about to put the belt to Duke. However,
I also don't think JMU loses as a 3-touchdown favorite this weekend. No. I think that's the biggest one.
I think if Duke wins, then yes, I think if North Texas, Duke, and JMU win.
I don't think it matters between North Texas and Tulane. One of them are in.
Yeah. Okay. So the winner of the American plus JMU, if those two when they win and Duke wins, yeah, I think the G5 will have 2 representatives, which should be hilarious. How bad of a look would it be if the ACC gets left out? It'd look pretty bad. And all eyes would go straight to Clemson. Miami's not going to get any heat for this. I don't think Miami's going to get any heat for this because Miami, yes, they lost 2 games, but they only lost 2 games.
Clemson lost the wrong 2 games.
Correct. Clemson lost too many. Now, think about this. I'm not going to get into that because I'm swinging. So never mind. Let's move forward.
Miami would have been in a better position losing to Notre Dame and beating Louisville because then they would be in the ACC championship.
If Miami would have beat Louisville, yeah, all this would have been solved.
But if they were still 10-2, lost to Notre Dame, but beat Louisville, they would be in a better position than they are right now, which is kind of messed up when you think about it.
Absolutely. Which shame on Notre Dame. Again, shame on Notre Dame. Notre Dame, all roads. So there's a theory out there, and I forget what the theory is called, but the theory is all internet conversations somehow will lead to Nazism at some point. So this just proves that theory correct. Oh, yeah. It's an actual theory. Let me look it up. But there's a new theory out there that I'm creating now. All roads in college football talk lead to Notre Dame at some point. And Notre Dame.
How is this Notre Dame's fault for beating
because they should be in a conference, Jake. All this would be easier if they were in the conference. Because you know who would have been in the ACC championship game? Virginia and Notre Dame. And this conversation wouldn't be happening at all. Instead, the ACC is a laughingstock because Notre Dame wants to be in the ACC in every single sport except for football. And it's killing the ACC. They really, really, really need Notre Dame. They do. And
that's a selfish ACC thing, but Notre Dame's doing just fine without it.
Right. They're doing just fine without it, but it's killing the entire perspective of a conference because you lose the opportunity to have that other top tier program that can lift you up when the other teams are struggling. And it sucks because nobody's complaining last year when Clemson was playing SMU. And SMU was a G5 team the year before that.
Correct.
But because we have a basketball championship for the football championship this coming weekend, everybody's mad. I don't know. Notre Dame has screwed the ACC, and I don't understand how the ACC is okay with it.
Let's talk about the Big Ten championship. Let's
That
talk
game's
about the other
exciting.
conference. Let's talk about the conference championships this weekend. We have the Big Ten championship, number 1 versus number 2. Expected. I can't imagine there's a way that they're not number 1 versus number 2, especially with Texas A&M losing. Ohio State should probably be number 1 when the rankings come out tomorrow. Indiana will probably be number 2 when the rankings come out tomorrow. This game, I was looking at the stats of where Indiana struggled in those close games. Oregon, Iowa, and Penn State are the 3 games where Indiana struggled the most. And I say struggled because they beat Oregon, but it was the games where they had the toughest issues. Penn State, they had to come back and win. Iowa, they struggled as well. When they played Penn State, Indiana struggled with pressure because Penn State got 3 sacks, had 8 tackles for loss, only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. For Iowa, they only averaged 2.7 yards per carry. Now, I did forget to take out the 40-yard run by Fernando Mendoza into the back of the end zone in that, so that yards per carry is probably a little bit higher than 2.7, but the point still stands. They averaged less than 4 yards per carry in all of their close games except Wisconsin. And to me, that's where Ohio State has to control the line of scrimmage. Indiana has to control the line of scrimmage as well. I know it's very cliche, but it comes down to the line of scrimmage. And it also comes down to another cliche of turnovers because Indiana only has 6 turnovers this year. Has only 7 turnovers, I bet. They've 1 fumble and 6 interceptions. But they have forced 24 turnovers this year. I mean, that's a plus 17 margin. That is a very strong turnover margin.
Yeah, and you wonder why they're dominating teams.
They've only allowed 11 touchdowns this year.
And Jake, so and one thing I want to focus on too, because a lot of people want to say Indiana's played a weak schedule. Part of that is not their fault. Penn State did not hold up their end of the bargain.
Penn State didn't hold up the end of the bargain for either Ohio State or Indiana.
No. But you look at when they played Illinois was ranked 9th in the country, and they took Illinois to the woodshed and obliterated them off of the college football map, beating them 63-10. It's not their fault it's not their fault. Then Oregon comes to town, they go to Oregon and beat them by 10. And honestly, it should have been worse. If Fernando Mendoza doesn't throw that pick 6, the game is probably worse. And the most positive thing out of that game was how Fernando Mendoza marched the team down the field after that pick 6. So he throws the pick 6, and then the next drive he goes down and scores a touchdown. So in an away environment, in a situation like that where the season could fall apart, for him to do that is insane. This Indiana team is made of a different cloth than a lot of the Big Ten, a lot of the rest of the teams in college football. So you can look at their schedule, but Jake, when they had business in front of them, they handled it, and they handled it mightily. And so did Ohio State. This is going to be a great matchup. However, in my opinion, and just to go ahead and play a little bit of a spoiler, when you have 2 teams that are so similar in record, that are so similar in strength of schedule, that are so similar in so many ways, there's one determining factor. That's talent. And in games like these, the talent differential will show itself. Not once in this schedule, Oregon would be the other time. I think Oregon would be the other time that you could say Oregon is more talented than Indiana. There's not another team on that schedule that has a more talented team. Maybe Penn State. And that was a close game. Penn State is a very talented team, regardless of what they've done this year. They're a very talented team.
Execution and play calling and coaching, but pure talent standpoint, yes, Penn State can match up with Indiana on the pure talent standpoint.
So this game is going to come down to talent and to coaching. If Ryan Day and the coaching staff at Ohio State pee down their leg, they lose. Period. It's not going to be Ohio State has executed all year long. All year long. They've hummed. So is Indiana. It's going to come down to who is the most talented. When you look at Julian Sayin versus Fernando Mendoza, they're both in the Heisman conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the wide receiver core. Who would you rather have? Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper, or Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith?
Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper are very good. But
they're very good. But
Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are
incomparable. They're incomparable. You cannot compare those two groups. Yeah. So there's a tier S and there's a tier A. Tier S is Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, and there's nobody in the country that can even touch that. Not one. There's not one group that you can name that can touch those two, in my opinion. You can look at Miami has Malachi Toney. Who does he have next to him? Alabama has Jeremy Bernard and Isaiah Horton. Georgia has Zachariah Branch.
You don't even mention Ryan Williams anymore.
I don't. What has he done?
USC, Jacoby Lane, and Mekhi Lemon.
That's in the A tier. Well. That's in the A tier with Indiana, in my opinion.
You know, when I look at this game, I think there were essentially 3 games where Ohio State felt some early trouble. Washington, Michigan, and Penn State. And you can give me flack all you want. Let me explain. Against Washington, they fumbled a punt early in the game, and Washington was able to move the ball a little bit, and they didn't take a ton of chances. Michigan, there was an early interception by Julian Sam. And Penn State, they fumbled just before the half. Now they managed all those situations. Penn State scored a touchdown off of that. Michigan ended up with a field goal, and Washington only ended up with 6 points the whole day. But when this was the closest in trouble they've really been all year in those 3 games, Indiana is probably going to be able to execute better than any of those 3 teams, because when you talk about pure talent and execution and what they do, Mendoza with Cooper and Surratt, they can make a team pay for an early turnover. I think Indiana needs to get Ohio State out of balance early. If you can, if you get that interception, you have to get 6. You cannot just settle for 3 points. This game was not going to be won between the uprights. It's going to be won in the end zone.
Yep.
All right, let's jump over to the SEC championship. We've got Alabama and Georgia. They already played once this year. We've already got a preview of this. Alabama won that game 24-21. When I look back at this, Georgia had 4 drives with 4 plays or less. And they actually 4 drives with 4 plays or less that did not result in points. They had 1 drive for 3 plays that did get a touchdown. Alabama scoring drives were 14 plays, 8 plays, 4 plays, and then they had a 10-play worth of missed field goal. Alabama was able to methodically move the ball down the field. Granted, they weren't great at running the ball, but they were able to move the ball through the air in that game. They limited Georgia's ability to maintain possession, because Georgia averaged nearly 7 yards per carry that game. They were running it up on Alabama, and Alabama's rush defense has not been phenomenal this year.
No, and one thing I want to focus on too. Sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
Nope, it's all you now.
The one thing I want to focus on too is where Alabama started off cold and then got super hot at the beginning of the year, like obviously losing to Florida State, but then racking off wins against Wisconsin, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, all ranked teams. The back half, the easier part of Alabama's schedule, easier, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. South Carolina, they won by 7. Should have lost that game. South Carolina pissed down their leg. LSU won by 11, 20-9. But LSU had opportunities in that game too.
Weird game over all around in that
Very weird game. Oklahoma, they lose. Eastern Illinois, obviously they win. And then Auburn, they struggle. Probably should have lost that game too. So the last 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5 games, they haven't looked very, very good. Let me tell you why, Jake? 2 things. Alabama cannot protect the quarterback very well, and Alabama cannot run the football. And those things are hand in hand. Because if you can't run the football, teams know you're passing. If teams know you're passing, it's a lot easier to pass rush. Because the pass rush, pass blocking for offensive linemen is how slow can you lose. You're not going to win 9 times out of 10 as an offensive lineman in pass rushing. It is a losing technique. How can I lose slowly?
How can I delay the guy getting there as long as possible?
Correct. So if you're not able to run and make the defensive line think at all, you're not going to be able to delay them very well. So this Georgia team that's improved every single week since then, and Alabama has kind of regressed, in my opinion. I think this game is going to go the opposite way. Now, you look at it, and Kirby Smart has the Alabama bugaboo he can't quite get over. And then you also look at it too. Well, who is Georgia really played? I mean, they beat Texas. Okay, they beat Tennessee. Who's Tennessee? Tennessee just got boat raced by Vanderbilt. I don't know. This game is going to be extremely intriguing. I think the line right now is with Alabama. Hold on, let me look at it. The line right now is
Georgia minus 2.5.
And I think that's perfect. I think Georgia wins this game. I think Georgia's a much more balanced team than Alabama, and I think that'll show in this game because Georgia can run the football. Georgia can throw the football. Maybe not as well as Alabama, but they can throw the football, and they play phenomenal defense. Alabama struggles in the trenches on both sides of the football.
Alabama's been playing with fire.
They have.
Alabama's been playing with fire all year long. I mean, they have played some tough games. Like, they played a tough schedule this year. When you talk about Missouri, I mean, they beat Tennessee by 17. South Carolina was close. LSU was close to need to be. Oklahoma, was a close loss. Auburn this past weekend was a close loss. And if Auburn could figure out how to catch the ball and not put the ball on the ground, they might have won that game. But Auburn sat here and continued to shoot themselves in the foot constantly. Anytime they had a positive play, it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And sometimes it was 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
Right.
So Alabama right now, I am not high on the Tide.
No.
And
not high tide over here in the walk-on red shirts. No. Very low tide. We're ebbing.
No. Jam Miller, he was hurt last week. I don't know what his status will be for this weekend, but he did get hurt. And Daniel Hill was 11 carries for 39 yards. Jam Miller was 15 carries for 83 yards. Jam Miller was much more effective running the ball. If they do not have Jam Miller this weekend, then I don't know how they're going to run the ball. I just don't know how it's going to happen. I don't think they can consistently move the ball and pose a threat to Georgia where they feel like they have to commit extra guys to the run. And if you don't have to do that, and you can have, you can drop 6 and 7 guys back into coverage every play because you have Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, or Ryan Williams out there. I like my chances if I'm Georgia.
You should. And you should like your chances in every game. Georgia's one of those programs that you should never go into a game thinking you're going to lose or not thinking you have a chance. Those days should not be there as a Georgia fan. This game's going to be intriguing because Alabama, all the bad things I'm saying about them, the way they pass the ball, the way Ty Simpson runs that offense is extremely efficient, extremely impressive, and you can't count them out. You can't count them out. They're a cockroach. They do not die in games. Especially when they should. So, similar to Ohio State and Michigan, is Georgia able to get this Alabama monkey off their back? I think they do.
Big 12 championship, we also get a rematch. BYU and Texas Tech. This game, when they first played, BYU shot themselves in the foot a lot. Now, Texas Tech won the game. There's no doubt about that. Texas Tech did what they needed to win. But BYU set them up a couple times in good position. BYU had 3 turnovers, including a muff punt that allowed Texas Tech to kick a field goal. And Texas Tech moved backwards on that drive. BYU was 3 of 14 on third down. You can't win a game going 3 of 14 on third down.
I'll tell you the biggest damning stat for BYU is none of those things. It's the fact that they ran for 67 yards, and that's a team that thrives on running the football. They have got to run the football to be efficient offensively. They almost threw for 200, but it didn't matter. You ran for 67 yards. LJ Martin did not have a good day. 10 carries for 35 yards. Barry Bachmeier, 11 carries for 12 yards. Not too shabby, buddy, or not too good, buddy. So rough day in the office for the rushing attack. If they're going to stand a chance against this Texas Tech team that's also built to stop the run, they have got to be able to establish the line of scrimmage. And I'm showing my hand a little bit. I just don't think they're able to. I think Texas Tech is one of the most talented teams in the country in the trenches, and that's why they've been able to beat teams that they've beaten this year. They're extremely talented on the offensive line and defensive line.
Texas Tech's defense is nasty.
It really is.
They have arguably the best, if not the best, one of the top 5 best defensive players in the country in Jacob Rodriguez. The guy just casually has 104 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions. 4 interceptions as the linebacker.
That's
7
insane.
forced fumbles.
Had 9 tackles against
fumbles.
Yeah, that's big time. He had 9 tackles against BYU last time they played, and he had a touchdown pass. He called a touchdown pass last weekend.
David Bailey, Romello Height, Anthony Holmes, like these are guys that are going to step up for that defensive line. David Bailey's got 12.5 sacks this year. Arguably the best pass rusher in the country right now.
Where'd he come from, Jake?
Stanford.
You are able to get guys at Stanford. Tristan, you can do it. Mr. Pritchard.
I don't think it's Tristan.
It's not Tristan.
Tavita.
Not even close to Tristan.
Not even close.
I got his last name right.
David Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez, like these guys are going to have to step up. Texas Tech should be in the playoff no matter what. But when you look at their defense, they've got some dudes that are absolutely ready to play. And you go and look at the amount of rushing yards they've allowed. 3 times they've allowed more than 100 rushing yards. Utah, 101. Houston, 103. Kansas State, 126. They've allowed an average of 2.3 yards per carry this year and 5 rushing touchdowns. Bear Bachmeier has had some games where he can sling it. But, man, if they're getting pressure on you and you've got to throw on the run, like that makes your job that much more difficult. And I like BYU. I also now wonder, is there a distraction? Now, if Kalani Sitake comes out and does the Jordan Belfort, I'm not leaving, that's going to put a little bit of energy into your program for sure. Problem is you still have to face off against Texas Tech.
Yeah. And I think with, like you said, the addition of all this Kalani Sitake drama, circling the program, that's going to play a factor this weekend, regardless of how it plays out. It's going to play a factor. I think this Texas Tech team is just built for this moment, and I think it's going to be a bloodbath. This game,
also, you got to remember, was not that long ago. It's not like they played in the end of September where, hey, these are 2 completely different teams now. They played less than a month ago right now. Like they played on November 8th. It was BYU's 9th game and Texas Tech's 10th game. It's not like they were playing forever ago. So this is fairly recent. Now it is very difficult to beat a team twice. They always say it's difficult to beat a team twice because now BYU knows what they need to do differently. They know how they can address things. They have it on tape against their own guys for how they can scheme. How can you scheme away from Jacob Rodriguez? How can you scheme away from David Bailey? Not that that's easy to do, but how can you address that? Bear Bachmeier has had some games where he has thrown the ball. He threw it 30-something times, like 38 times against Texas Tech the first time. He's had a game with 300 yards this year. He can throw the ball. Granted, he's a freshman. This is a big moment. I think BYU needs to get him settled down early. I think you need to find a way to sustain a drive early in that first quarter and get him comfortable.
The thing, though, is, Jake, he's been able to throw the ball, but he hasn't been able to throw the ball against a defense like Texas Tech.
There's not many defenses like Texas Tech, though.
Right. Utah may be similar. I don't know. I don't have high hopes for BYU this weekend. Let me just say that.
That's fair. Final game before we get into everything else here. ACC Championship.
Save the best for last.
This is a game. We'll skim over this one a little bit more. There is a potential playoff bid on the line between Virginia and Duke, and I thought Duke was dead weeks ago. They are not dead. They went 1-3 out of conference, 6-2 in conference. Doesn't make any sense. They're 7-5 in the ACC Championship game. If they win and there's chaos, we could see an 8-win Duke team in the playoff. And then all of a sudden, I think you see somebody make changes to the playoff because they're not
the playoff. The way the playoff is set up will be exploded, torn apart because you know what team will be left out? It'll be in Alabama, and they'll say this is a travesty. We cannot have this. We cannot have this. Can you imagine Duke playing JMU on the CW, or Duke playing who'd be the 5th ranked team, Oregon on the CW, and just Duke just getting mollywopped out in Salem.
That might be the best thing, is being the 5 seed and you get to host Duke.
That'd be phenomenal. But let's not. I don't want to entertain this anymore. Virginia is going to beat the bricks off of Duke this weekend. Chandler Morris is going to have his legacy game. Why Chandler Morris is not being considered in the Heisman conversation is beyond me. Yes, I'm biased. Yes, I was pro Virginia all preseason, and everyone laughed at me and ha 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 ha. And I think that Matt guy on my Twitter should have to eat the sock. He said, "Should I have to eat the sock?" Because he said, if Miami wins 9 games, he was responding to my take where I said Virginia would win 9 games, not Miami. If Virginia wins 9-3 games, oh my God, I can't speak. Matt said, responding to my take, that Virginia wouldn't win 9 games, that if Virginia won 9 games, he would eat a sock. He actually said if they went 9-3. Excuse me. That's semantics. It's very important here because now they're saying, well, because they went 10-2, they didn't go 9-3, and he doesn't have to eat the sock. I think that's bullcrap. He should have to eat the sock.
I agree.
He should have to eat the sock.
Duke and Virginia actually played earlier this year, and this game was not close. The final score was 34-17, but it was 31-3 entering the 4th quarter. And to me, when you look back at this game, Virginia shut down Duke's rushing attack. Shut it down.
And
42 rushing yards. 42 rushing yards on 23 carries. You average less than 2 yards a carry.
Chandler Morris was also coming off of an injury in that game. So he was a shell of himself.
I agree with you. This spread is crazy low. Duke has not played great football. Granted, they beat Wake Forest, Wake Forest is actually a solid program. They went 8-4 this year. Quietest 8-4. Arizona was the quietest 9-4 or 9-3. Wake Forest is the quietest 8-4 program.
Yeah. Wake Forest and Arizona are in the same tier in terms of quiet.
Not getting enough love for how they did this year.
Exactly.
Duke, though, I mean, you're 2 weeks removed from barely beating North Carolina. Barely beating North Carolina. You were losing to North Carolina with a couple minutes left in the game. North Carolina is not good. They were not good this past year. Darian Mensah is a talented quarterback. I like what he brings to the table, but you had a ton of inconsistencies with him this year. You never knew what you were going to get out of Darian Mensah. He might throw for 300 yards. He might throw for 200 and complete 50% of the passes, which is what he did against Virginia last time. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, though, which is one thing to keep in mind. He threw 28 touchdowns this year and 4 interceptions, which is an incredible ratio.
Yeah, Clemson also dropped 3 interceptions against him in one drive, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Connecticut got 2 on him. He actually threw none against Virginia.
That's so crazy to me. Connecticut beat this team.
Yes. A team that UConn beat is potentially going to make the playoff, which is baffling. Like you said, Chandler Morris, I think this Virginia defense is going to be up for the task again. I know that now it is a neutral site. It's played in Charlotte. I don't think this is going to be much of a competition. No. If I'm wrong, then this could get ugly. This could get very, very weird.
Blowout city, in my opinion.
Not gonna eat a sock, though.
No, he won't eat a sock.
All right, it's time for the Gridiron Spiciest Take of the Week. Just like Bowl College Football Takes, Gridiron Spice brings flavor to every meal. From the signature varsity blend to the fiery hot route and Cajun-inspired Go Long. Their seasonings are built for game day. Head to gridironspiceco.com for 10% off your order. Gridiron Spice, where football meets flavor. Use code WALKON for 10% off your order. I don't know if I said that. All right, last week I said Georgia Tech would beat Georgia. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. Jeremiah Smith scored 3 touchdowns. Didn't happen, but Ryan Day did get the monkey off his back, according to you. And you said Ryan Day will try to act serious, but then will crack up and push him away.
Yeah, none of that happened. There was no whatever. They obviously listened to the show and was like, we can't do that now. We don't want to give people free spices from Gridiron Spices.
My take this week, I have Virginia to win by 17 plus. We talked about this already. I think Virginia is going to roll. I think they're going to absolutely dominate this weekend. I don't think it'll be close. I think Virginia is going to do exactly what they did to Duke last time. Give me the Wahoos.
Yeah, I would love to do something with Virginia on this. So thank you for taking that from me. If I want to be really, really spicy, because I don't even know if I agree with this 100%. So that's why I'm kind of like teetering on it.
I see your pick.
You know I'm going to flip completely. I was going to say Ohio State beats Indiana by double digits and puts the College Football Playoff Committee into chaos. I don't think that happens.
I just don't think that'd be chaos because even if they win by 2 touchdowns, I think Indiana still is like the 4 seed and gets a bye.
I'm going to say this. I think Georgia holds Alabama to under 320 total yards of offense.
If Jam Miller's not there, I like that a lot because I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball.
If I want to be real spicy, I'll say 300 yards of offense. Should I just be really spicy?
Yeah, be really spicy.
Look, I'll be really spicy.
If they don't have Jam Miller, they're not going to be able to run the ball, and that means Ty Simpson has to do everything. I like Ty Simpson, but I don't think he's going to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting if Alabama loses what the committee does because they say that the conference championship game shouldn't matter because for your seeding, but like it does because you're playing a football game. All right. Walk on weekly 10, but we have less than that this week because of its conference championship week. We actually only have 9 games this week, but sponsored by Battle Bets. If you aren't on Battle Bets already, I don't know what you've been doing all season long. College football Saturdays got a whole lot better. Forget Vegas, forget risking real money. Everyone is running Battle Bets leagues. Here's how it works. You join a league, you get fake money to bet on the biggest games every week. Track all your action. The best part, it's not just for bragging rights. Leagues have real prizes. You can stack points over the season, prove you're the sharpest bettor, and take home the crown. It's free. It's fun. It's built for college football fans just like us. Hop in now, join Battle Bets, and see what it takes. And there's all sorts of other sports. I believe they added basketball. I believe they've added some other sports as well. Go check out Battle Bets. It's in the App Store. You can go find it online. Go join. We did 20 games last week. I went 12-8. You went 13-7. You picked up a game on me last week.
Which is huge. Which is huge when you look at this slate.
You're clawing back. You are 4 games back. I am 77-76. I am 1 game above 500, and you are 73-80.
Jake, I could win this weekend.
You could. So let's start off with it. Kennesaw State at Jacksonville State in the Conference USA Championship.
Jacksonville State has one of the best running backs in the country. Jacksonville State is the Gamecock, similar to the old team that we just owned, down 26. Give me Jacksonville State. Kennesaw State, they're too new to this. Give me Jacksonville State.
I'm going to take Kennesaw State to cover. It's only 1.5. They are one of the best stories in the country, 9-3. They nearly beat Wake Forest earlier this year. They only lost by 1. They played Jacksonville State earlier this year. They lost by 9. I think they were on the road. Now all of a sudden you play them again. They're also back at Jacksonville State. I think they get it done this time.
Yeah. Cam Cook, by the way, to give Cam Cook to give him some love, the running back. He's also a Doak Walker finalist.
More you know. Sunbelt, Troy at James Madison. James Madison's the 22.5-point favorite.
I don't think Troy wins this game. Let me go and preface. I think Troy covers. 22.5 is a lot of points. A lot of points. So I'm thinking Troy covers this game. James Madison is going to try to run up the score because they need to get style points to make sure that they are the G5 representative. I think Troy is able to cover a 22.5 point spread.
Yeah, your exact point. Why James Madison needs to run up the score is why I think they cover that. They're 8-4 against the spread this year. I think they make that 9-4. They're going to win. Question is by how much. I think they cover that 22.5. Playoff spot on the line in this one in the American. In all likelihood, there's a playoff spot on the line. North Texas versus Tulane. North Texas is a 2.5 point favorite this weekend.
I just like North Texas in games like these. When you really want to fall back on how you're going to win a big time championship, you really need an offense that can do it all. And this North Texas offense can really do it all. But when you have a quarterback like Drew Mestemaker, I'm just going to side with him in any sort of game like this. So give me North Texas to win and cover.
Yeah, I'm going to take North Texas here too. I like what they've done. I think they learned a lot from that USF game earlier this year. And North Texas seems to be on a roll. Very intriguing because both of these coaches accepted new jobs and will be recruiting for other programs, but also coaching for their program this weekend. So, intriguing matchup here. Mountain West, Boise State versus UNLV. Boise State is a 3.5 point favorite this weekend.
Give me the fight in Dan Mullins. They found their identity. They're playing good football. And Boise State is a shell of themselves. Give me UNLV.
I was out on UNLV very early in the year. They played Idaho State. And I'll be honest, I didn't think much about them after that because they played some close games. They lost big to Boise State last time. They lost by 25 points last time. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, it was on the Smurf turf. That's important because it's tough to win on that Smurf turf. Now, this game is also back on the Smurf turf.
Is it? They're not playing in Nevada?
No, they are actually playing in Boise. So
I didn't realize
just for that, I'm actually going to change my pick.
Oh,
give you another opportunity. Boise State doesn't lose on the Smurf turf. So I'm going to take Boise State again just because they're at home. MAC game here. Western Michigan and Miami of Ohio. Western Michigan is a 2.5 point favorite.
Miami of Ohio lost their quarterback in DeQuan Finn, which you put out a phenomenal tweet earlier today where DeQuan Finn and Bryce Underwood have the same stat line in terms of passing touchdowns and interceptions. And DeQuan Finn, I think, left the team in November 4th. So
yeah, he hasn't been on the team in a month.
Pretty funny. And I saw Western Michigan play a really good football game last week, excuse me, not the weekend because the MAC doesn't play on the weekend. So give me Western Michigan. This is a vibes game.
I'm taking Miami, Ohio here. They have rallied around this with Daquan Finn leaving. Thomas Gutowski has come in to play quarterback. He was 12 of 24 for 226 and 3 touchdowns, filling in nicely without Daquan Finn there. I think Daquan Finn's an electric player. I also think there were some limitations there. I think Miami gets it done this weekend. At 7-5, I think they're going to win the MAC. Granted, they went 6-2 in the MAC, so it's not like they're not deserving. Give me Miami of Ohio. I think they cover and they win. All right, the ACC Championship. We'll get this one out of the way. Virginia's 3.5 point favorite. I already mentioned I got by 3 scores. I'm pretty sure you feel the same.
I wanted to do that, and you took it from me. You stole it right from under me.
Virginia big. Big 12 Championship. BYU is a 13.5 point underdog to Texas Tech this weekend.
Texas Tech handles it. I think they beat them. I think they beat them big. I think all of the distractions going around with the Kalani Sitake situation, I think the way these two teams are built, Texas Tech is built to beat BYU. So given the additional drama and the additional stakes, I think Texas Tech rises to the occasion.
I am going to take BYU to cover. I think Crumble Cookies is going to come to save BYU football. And I think they're going to rally around this. I don't think BYU is going to win, but I think they learned a lot from the last one. This game is in Dallas, I believe. It's in Dallas. So still a travel for BYU, but I think they'll cover the spread. I don't know if they'll win, but I think they keep it close.
Yeah, and if you had fun, you won.
Exactly. SEC, Georgia is a 2.5-point favorite over Bama. Who do you like?
I alluded to it already. I think Georgia wins. I think Georgia wins pretty big. I like Georgia in this scenario.
After thinking about it a lot, I am changing my pick. I had Bama written down there, but since
that's right, you traded me Boise State.
I traded, so I'm going to take Georgia to cover this as well. The Jam Miller injury, I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about Alabama's ability to run the football. I think them being one-dimensional is not going to be a good thing at all for this weekend, and I think Georgia gets that monkey off their back, beats Alabama this weekend by at least 3 points. Final one here, the big one, Big Ten Championship, number 1 versus number 2. Ohio State is a 5.5-point favorite versus Indiana in Indianapolis. One interesting thing that people were saying, this is basically a home game for Indiana, but it's also not a very far trip for Ohio State either. When you look at how far Indianapolis is from Bloomington, I am pulling it up right now. This is great podcasting.
I'll give you my take while you pull it.
It is still, it's still an hour. It's an hour away. So it's not like it's right there. It's not like they're Purdue, who is actually like right in the backyard of Indianapolis. It's an hour away for Indiana. It's 3 hours for Ohio State. It's going to be split 50-50 down the middle. It's not like it's one. It's not like Oregon having to fly across the country.
Can I inform people something too?
Yeah.
Ohio State's one of the largest fan bases in the world. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of Ohio State fans that probably live in the Indianapolis area that might want to go to that game.
Probably.
Just throwing.
And that's from Columbus and Bloomington. I guarantee there are a mixture of fans in between the two.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. Oh, what's your take? Go ahead.
What's mine?
Yeah, who'd you pick?
I'm taking Ohio State to cover the spread.
Yeah, I'm also doing that. I had to take it and I forgot. It's gone out of my head. It's gone, Jake.
I don't know. But I'm going to take Ohio State to cover the 5.5. I think this is going to be a close game, but I do think Ohio State wins by 7 to 10 points.
Oh, I remember my take now. Go ahead. Finish your finish.
I think they win by 7 to 10 points. I think it might be a late score to fully cover that spread, but I think Ohio State wins the game.
I'm right there with you. One thing that I would throw out there, this is a possibility. Both these teams are guaranteed to be in the college football playoff. Would you agree?
Yeah, both of them are for sure in the playoff.
Do not be shocked if this is a very vanilla game where neither team is willing to do extra to win the game. Meaning, they're not going to empty the clip. If guys are hurting, they're not going to play through the injury. They're going to pull them out. I think, like we alluded to, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, this could be the first conference championship game that we truly see affected by the playoff rule, because both of these teams are getting in. None of the other games have that guarantee. This is the other game. This is the only game that has it. And I think this is the first time we're dealing with that. Maybe Georgia, Texas last year. And that game was a really good game, and they emptied the clip. But maybe you see that this week. Don't know.
Especially when both teams are probably getting a bye in this situation as well.
Right, even if they lose.
There's a really high chance that the loser of this is still getting a bye.
Yeah, I agree. So give me Ohio State to win. Give them to cover. I think both teams are competitors. It's hard to tell a competitor to take their foot off the gas when they go onto the football field. So I'm saying all this with a grain of salt, but just keep that in mind.
That being said, that does it for our conference championship edition preview. Appreciate everybody joining in this week. We'll be back again next week. May have some stuff happening on Sunday after the college football playoff is announced. We do have a special guest joining us next week to break down the college football playoff. I'm excited for that one. I'm excited for that guest. I think it'll be a really good episode next week. So make sure to come back and join us. Go follow the Walk on Red Shirts at walkonredshirts.com, Walk on Red Shirts on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you get social media content. YouTube, Facebook, go follow us. Make sure you go follow Will at Walk On Moose, and we will be back again next week.